You've done everything right. You've slowed the pace, set new boundaries, maybe even started therapy together. You've followed all the advice about rebuilding trust and giving genuine change a chance. But something still doesn't feel right. And you're starting to wonder if you're crazy for feeling unsettled.
If you're rebuilding trust and it's still not working, if you feel like you're doing all the emotional work while walking on eggshells, this video is here to help you know when it's time to stop trying and start healing.
Hi, I'm Tehrina.
And I'm Joel.
We're licensed therapists here to help you heal from anxious attachment, stop chasing unavailable love, and build the secure relationships you deserve.
Today, we're talking about the hardest but often most empowering decision of all: when to let go with love and dignity, even when someone says they've changed.
This is part 5 of our 5-part series on navigating avoidant relationships. We've covered breadcrumbing during the relationship, breadcrumbing after the relationship, how to tell if change is real, and how to rebuild trust when someone has genuinely done the work.
Now, we're addressing what happens when you've tried everything. You've given genuine change a real chance, and it's still not working for your emotional well being. This isn't about giving up at the first sign of difficulty. This is about recognizing when even good faith efforts aren't creating the safety and security you need.
And let's be clear from the start. Letting go doesn't mean you're giving up on love or that you're incapable of commitment. It means that you're honoring what your nervous system is telling you about safety and choosing your emotional well-being over false hope.
The people who need this message most are often the ones who have the hardest time receiving it. If you have anxious attachment, you're probably really good at minimizing your needs, making excuses for others, and convincing yourself that you should just try harder or be more patient.
But sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and the other person is to stop trying to force something that isn't working and create space for both of you to find relationships that are genuinely compatible.
The first sign it might be time to let go is that you're doing all of the emotional work. Again, you initiated the conversation about rebuilding. You're the one tracking whether they're following through on changes. You're driving most of the important conversations about the relationship.
They might be present and even cooperative, but they're not participating at the same level of emotional investment and initiative that you are. It feels like you're the relationship manager while they're just showing up when asked.
Healthy relationships aren't powered by one person's emotional labor. Both people must be actively invested in understanding each other, addressing problems, and creating the safety and connection that the relationship needs to thrive.
If you find yourself constantly having to prompt conversations about the relationship, remind them of agreements that you've made, or explain why certain behaviors are hurtful, those are all signs that the level of emotional investment isn't balanced.
And it's exhausting to be the only one holding the emotional intelligence for two people. And it's not sustainable long term, no matter how much you love someone or how much potential you see in the relationship.
You shouldn't have to be the only one who remembers what you've talked about working on, or the only one who notices when old patterns are creeping back in. Partnership means both people are actively engaged in the health and growth of the relationship.
The second sign is that even though there was an initial shift, maybe they were more communicative, more emotionally present, or more consistent for a few weeks or months, they've reverted to old patterns under stress. Real change is tested under pressure. If someone can only maintain new behaviors when everything is going smoothly, but defaults to old avoidant patterns the moment things get challenging, the change isn't integrated deeply enough to create lasting security. You might notice that promises made during repair conversations aren't consistently followed through on, or they're great at new behaviors for a while, but then gradually stop putting in the same effort without any conversation about why.
And you find yourself right back in hypervigilance, constantly scanning their mood, analyzing their behavior, waiting for the next withdrawal or shutdown. If you're constantly bracing for them to revert to old patterns, your nervous system is telling you that the change isn't reliable enough to feel safe. And this is particularly challenging because intermittent reinforcement, in which sometimes they show up beautifully, but sometimes they don't, it creates even stronger attachment than consistent behavior would. Your brain holds on to those good moments as evidence that change is possible, even when the overall pattern is still unpredictable. But if you're constantly bracing for disappointment, that's not trust rebuilding, that's trauma management. When you're rebuilding trust, your nervous system gradually relaxes rather than staying activated and vigilant.
Sustainable change creates predictability and reliability over time. If you're walking on eggshells or constantly wondering which version of this person you're going to get, the foundational work isn't solid enough yet.
The third sign, and this one is crucial, is that your nervous system still doesn't feel safe with this person, even though they're trying and things look better on paper.
And your body often knows the truth before your mind can accept it. If you feel anxious, tense, or shut down when you're around them, if you don't sleep well after spending time together, if you find yourself overthinking every conversation for hours afterwards, your nervous system is telling you something important.
You might notice that you can't fully exhale when you're with them. There's this subtle tension, this feeling of needing to be on or careful about what you say or how you react. Even when things are going well, there's a part of you that is still braced for something to go wrong.
And this is different from normal relationship anxiety or the nervousness that comes with being vulnerable. This is a persistent sense that you're not safe to be fully yourself, even after months of working on things together.
I used to dismiss these body signals and tell myself that I was just being anxious or too sensitive. But I learned that my nervous system is incredibly wise and picks up on subtle cues that my conscious mind might miss or rationalize away. Your body knows the difference between someone who's safe to be vulnerable with and someone who might withdraw, shut down, or become defensive if you express your authentic feelings or needs.
Dr. Stephen Porges' research on the nervous system shows us that we have these unconscious detection systems that are constantly assessing safety in our relationships. If your nervous system isn't settling with this person over time, that's important information.
It's important that you feel like you can be yourself, all of yourself, including the parts that are sometimes sad, frustrated, needy, or difficult. If you're editing yourself to keep the peace or avoid triggering their avoidant responses, that's not safety, it's survival mode. Our anxiety and intuition guide can help you distinguish between anxious thoughts and your nervous system's wise protective responses, and we'll link that in the description.
The fourth sign is that you've started minimizing your needs again. You're shrinking your expectations, avoiding being too much, or hesitating to express what you need because you know it'll overwhelm them or trigger their avoidant responses.
And this is so insidious because it often happens gradually. You start with healthy boundaries and clear communication about your needs. But over time, you notice yourself pulling back, asking for less, or convincing yourself that you're being too demanding.
And if the only way to stay in the relationship is to make yourself smaller, to need less, or to constantly manage their emotional capacity, then the fundamental dynamic hasn't actually changed. You're just managing it better.
I had to learn that a relationship where I couldn't express my full range of emotions and needs wasn't actually a relationship. It was me performing an acceptable version of myself to avoid abandonment. Real security means being able to say, I'm feeling disconnected and I need some reassurance. Or, I'm upset about what happened earlier and need to talk about it without having to worry about whether those needs will be met with presence or withdrawal.
The old dynamic is still driving the new relationship if you find yourself tiptoeing around their triggers, avoiding certain topics, or constantly gauging their emotional bandwidth before expressing your own needs.
You shouldn't have to become a smaller version of yourself to maintain peace in your relationship. Healthy love expands you. It doesn't require you to shrink. If you're constantly editing your words, suppressing your emotions, or convincing yourself that your needs are too much, that's not accommodation. That's self-abandonment. Don't do that.
A secure relationship can hold the full range of human emotions and needs. Both people need to feel safe expressing disappointment, asking for reassurance, working through conflicts, and sharing their authentic emotional experiences.
The fifth sign is that when you imagine a future with this person, marriage, living together, facing life's challenges together, it feels exhausting rather than exciting.
You don't trust how they'll respond when things get genuinely difficult. What happens when you face job loss, illness, family crisis, or the normal stressors that long term relationships encounter? If you can't imagine them staying emotionally present and supportive during those challenges, that tells you something crucial about the foundation you're building on.
When you imagine growing old with someone, it's important that you feel safe when you think about all the conversations you'll have, the challenges you'll face together, the ways you'll support each other through life's ups and downs. If the idea of forever with this person feels like signing up for a lifetime of emotional management and self suppression, your inner wisdom is telling you something important.
Healthy relationships get easier over time as you build trust, develop better communication skills, and learn how to support each other effectively. If you can't imagine this relationship becoming a source of comfort and security rather than constant vigilance, that's crucial information about its long term viability.
You deserve a relationship where the thought of forever feels like coming home, not like signing up for emotional labor you'll never be able to rest from.
So, if you're recognizing these signs, how do you let go with love and dignity rather than anger and resentment? First, remember that you can release someone without villainizing them. This isn't about making them wrong, it's about acknowledging incompatibility at a fundamental level.
You can let go from love, not anger. You might say something like, I believe you care about me, and I care about you too. I also know that this dynamic doesn't meet my attachment needs, and I need to honor that truth.
You don't need them to agree with your decision or understand your reasoning. You just need to honor your inner knowing about what feels safe and sustainable for you. Their understanding is not required for your choice to be valid.
You can share your why if it brings you peace and closure, but you don't owe anyone a detailed explanation for protecting your emotional well being. Sometimes love isn't enough to sustain a relationship, and that doesn't mean it wasn't real. It just means it wasn't safe. I've learned that the most compassionate thing I can do is to stop trying to make something work that isn't working. It frees both people to find relationships that are genuinely compatible rather than constantly trying to force something that requires one or both people to be less than who they are.
Letting go with dignity means taking responsibility for your part without taking responsibility for the whole relationship. It means grieving what you hope for while celebrating the clarity you've gained about what you need.
And remember, choosing to leave doesn't mean you're giving up on love. It means you're choosing to make space for love that doesn't require you to abandon yourself to receive it.
Let's talk about what's happening in your brain when you're trying to let go of someone you love, because understanding this can help you be more compassionate with yourself during this process. Dr. Helen Fisher's research using brain imaging shows that the grief of relationship loss activates the same neural regions as physical pain. This is why breakups literally hurt. Your brain's processing emotional pain the same way it would a physical injury. And what makes letting go particularly difficult after avoidant relationships is that you're also dealing with dopamine withdrawal. The intermittent reinforcement pattern, sometimes they showed up, sometimes they didn't, created powerful neural pathways that are hard to break. Research on closure shows us that the sense of completion and peace we seek doesn't actually come from the other person explaining their behavior or validating our experience. True closure comes from meaning making, self trust, and nervous system repair that happens within us. And studies on post traumatic growth reveal that people who can make meaning from difficult relationship experiences often develop stronger boundaries, clearer self knowledge, and better relationship skills that serve them in future connections. What's particularly encouraging is research showing that people who honor their nervous system's wisdom about safety, even when it means ending relationships they hoped would work, develop stronger self trust, and are more likely to create secure attachments in future relationships. Healing isn't about forgetting the connection you had or pretending it didn't matter. It's about remembering who you are outside of that relationship and trusting your capacity to create the love and security you deserve.
So let's get to the heart of it. If you've done the work to rebuild trust, if you've given genuine change a real chance, if you've been patient and loving and hopeful, and it's still not working for your emotional well being, you haven't failed. You've simply outgrown a version of the relationship that once felt like home, but no longer serves your growth and healing. Letting go isn't weak or evidence that you're incapable of a healthy relationship. It's the bravest form of self trust. It's saying, I believe I'm worthy of consistent, secure love, and I'm willing to create space for that, even if it means releasing what's familiar. Your needs for emotional safety, consistent communication, and secure attachment aren't too much. They're the foundation that healthy love is built on. If someone can't meet those needs, not because they're a bad person, but because they're not at a place in their own healing journey where they can offer what you need, it's okay to lovingly let them go. The relationship that's right for you won't require that you constantly minimize your needs, edit your authentic self, or live in hypervigilance about when the other person might withdraw or shut down. The right relationship will welcome your full emotional range and meet your attachment needs with consistency and care. And here's what I wish someone had told me during my own process of learning to let go. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop trying to make them into what you need them to be and to allow them to be who they are. That often means recognizing that who they are and what you need aren't compatible, and that's okay. Staying in a relationship that doesn't meet your fundamental needs doesn't serve either person. It prevents both of you from finding connections that are genuinely compatible and mutually nourishing. Trust the wisdom of your nervous system. Trust your knowing in your body that tells you whether you feel safe, seen, and securely loved. That wisdom is more reliable than any promises or explanations or hope for future change. You are worthy of love that doesn't leave you constantly questioning your worth or walking on eggshells. You're worthy of partnership that enhances your sense of self rather than requiring you to diminish it. The person who is right for you will meet your attachment needs, not as a burden to bear, but as a gift to offer. They will want to create safety and security with you because that's how they experience love too. Letting go creates space for that kind of love to find you. And it's not giving up. That's making room for something beautiful. So here's what we want you to think about. Which of these signs resonated most with you? And what is your inner wisdom telling you about your current situation?
Don't forget to download our free Anxiety versus Intuition guide to help you distinguish between anxious thoughts and your nervous system's protective wisdom. It's linked in the description.
And this concludes our 5-part series on navigating avoidant relationships. From recognizing breadcrumbing to rebuilding trust to knowing when to let go with love. We hope these videos have given you the clarity and permission you need to honor your attachment needs and create the secure love that you deserve.
And let us know in the comments, what has this series helped you realize about your relationships? What feels clearest for you now? Your insights might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear.
Your time is valuable. Thank you for sharing some of it with us today. If you found this series helpful, please give this video a like and share it with anyone who might be struggling with similar patterns. It could provide the validation and guidance they need to trust their own wisdom.
Subscribe and take care of your heart. Remember that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And you deserve love that doesn't require you to abandon yourself to receive it.
You're not alone. We're all in this together.